paperboard, the evening TV. Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look, there's a face of somebody who needs you. Everywhere you look, when you're lost out there and you're all alone, a light is waiting to carry you home. Everywhere you look, everywhere you look.
All right. My wrestlings and in my doubts, in my failure, you won't walk out. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubles. You are the peace in my troubles. In the silence, you won't let go. In the questions, your truth will hold
what's up, X Factors? We're starting our discussion table tonight. It's a round table discussion. Round table discussion. So, hey, I sent 3 questions ahead of time for you to look at as we jump into this discussion. Hopefully, you've taken a look at those, and we are also, at the end of this discussion, we're going to have a little bit more discussion together. So, we have with us today, why don't we just introduce ourselves, and while you're introducing yourself, describe your favorite cartoon character and why.
Ooh, it's a tough one.
It is, yeah.
All right. Describe or name them? Because you said describe. Is this supposed to be like a trivia game or like?
I'm gonna go with describe name.
Both.
Yeah.
Name.
No, you don't really have to describe the character.
I'll say their name and I'll say why.
That's good.
That
That's,
works.
is that describing it? Or?
It's not like saying why it's my favorite. I'm not describing the character.
I just thought it was describing it. But go ahead.
All right. My name is Cody Tripp.
Are you sure?
I'm positive that's my
All right.
name. My favorite cartoon character is Bugs Bunny, and I'll tell you why.
Did you know, before
Let
you
me
tell us
finish.
why, did you know that like 2 days ago was National Bugs Bunny Day?
No, I didn't know Bugs
And
Bunny.
he's your
I don't
favorite
think he's your favorite then.
He's your
I
favorite
don't watch
character.
cartoons very often.
Big fan.
All right, apparently.
Here's why. See, it's gonna make more sense when I tell you why.
All right.
He's my favorite cartoon character, and because of the reason, I can't talk. He is my favorite cartoon character because of Space Jam, which isn't even a cartoon movie, really.
I think you do have a little obsession with Space Jam.
I love Space Jam, and you wouldn't let us watch it on the watch party, but it's okay. I'm not salty. But Bugs Bunny really balled up on the Monstars in Space Jam, so
Nice.
that's why he's my favorite. Except Space Jam 2 is gonna get ruined because LeBron is in it. I didn't say that.
Hate to see it.
Yeah, well, Aiden, what's your name, Aiden?
I think it's Aiden. What's up?
Describe your name. Just kidding.
Well, it means little fire.
Wow.
I don't know in what language, but I know that it means little fire.
Native American, probably.
Little fire. Phew.
Is that Russian?
You know what,
It
Cody?
kind of sounded like it.
I'm trying.
All right.
All right. Let's see. My favorite cartoon character would have to be Grunkle Stan from Gravity Falls because he's kind of a legend. I don't know if you know who that is. I don't know if you
Is
guys
that
know
on
who that
Cartoon
is.
Network?
It was on Disney a while ago.
XD?
Yeah.
Oh.
The cool skater version of Disney Channel.
Nice.
So yeah.
Zeke and Luther was
Very nice. Well, I'm Dave, and my favorite cartoon character probably has to be Scooby-Doo.
Wow.
I'm going old school.
Classic.
Old school Scooby-Doo because there were always cool monsters on that show. And, you know, at the end of the show, there was always the scene where they were pulling the mask off the monsters, and
Meddling
then somebody'd say, I would have succeeded if it wasn't for you meddling teenagers, something like that, right? But it
Yeah.
was
It was that.
You know, there's a new Scooby-Doo movie coming out next year.
Scoob.
Really?
There is.
It was supposed to come out this year, but you know.
It might come out later this year. I don't know when it's coming out. But Zac Efron, I think he's Fred. I don't know who else is playing it.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Kinda.
They have a new voice. They have a new voice for Shaggy, so I'm not too into it. But
They better be good, but it probably won't be.
Hey, so I know that we're going to be talking about your favorite cartoon character tonight too. That's one of the first questions that we're asking. So we'll talk and hear from you guys later about your favorite cartoon character. Hey, the discussion tonight is really centered on this whole cabin fever. Is anybody over the whole I'm staying at home, I can't go anywhere? I mean, we're here at the church. Does anybody know we're here? That's beside the
We're
point.
not really supposed
So
to
let's
be here.
keep it hush hush.
how are you handling this being at home all the time? And what kind of routines are you developing? Cody, how are you handling it?
Well, I'm a very big extrovert, so I like to be with people. I get energy from being with people, and being alone has always been something that's kind of been a challenge for me. So this has forced me out of my comfort zone, which I learned a long time ago is usually a good thing for you to get out of your comfort zone if you embrace it, right? And one way that I've been trying to embrace that, a routine that I've been developing, is on weekdays, I've been getting up very early in the morning. a time I never thought that I would consistently get up.
Do you know what time he's been getting up?
No what?
Insane.
Spill.
Go ahead.
4 a.m.
4
So-
a.m. Oh my gosh.
So I've been getting up at 4 a.m. on the weekdays for the last 3 weeks probably. And it's been a really rewarding time of just some scripture reading and some prayer, some meditation. It's just a good way to get up. I got a couple hours before other people are awake, so I have no distractions except for on Fridays when new music comes out at midnight and I want to listen to the new music. But usually I just listen to that while I'm reading and stuff. And so I just usually get up and I read, depending on the day, probably about 5 chapters of the Bible. I'm in 2 Kings right now. And then I pray. I pray for just the different things I'm involved in, different ministries I'm involved in, and then I have a list of people that I pray for every day. And as I pray, I journal that out so that I can look back and see what I've been praying about. And it's just been really rewarding, really centering my days around Christ, because I have to go to bed earlier at like 9 o'clock. And so I'm thinking like all day, like I have this certain amount of time and I need to invest it in these certain ways to best center my life around God. And so yeah, it's just been really good practice for me.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome to get up at 4 a.m.
Insane.
I'm impressed. I've been impressed with you. Aiden, how are you handling the whole staying at home? I know you have a job, right? Where do you work?
I work at a Dairy Queen.
The Queen.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with the Dairy Queen? Like, describe to us your job.
That's an interesting question, Dave, because I basically just hop around wherever they need me. Like some days I'll be working in the kitchen, some days I'll be working on the ice cream side, some days I'll be taking orders from the front. Don't typically do drive-through, kind of stresses me out because, headset and like people mumble. You're like, sorry, what was that? And then you've said it 3 times and you still don't understand what they're saying. But it's good. It's good to be out, interacting with people. Tucker's there and we get to see each other, so
That's cool.
some good conversations and still getting work done. But honestly, just being like in this situation, staying at home, it's not that different from my normal routine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been able to transition pretty well because I have a lot of stuff that I could do on my own.
Well, Aiden, you mentioned the word routine, and that's kind of what we wanted to talk about tonight. It's just this whole being at home, developing some routines that can change your life, right? Because if you guys think about it, this time that we have, I was thinking about this yesterday. If we come out of this time not closer to God, shame on us. Really, shame on us with all the amount of extra time that we have. If we haven't developed a routine or just some things that would help in our discipline, I just think it's shame on us. So Holden Rose, we asked Holden to share a little bit, and he created this video, so check this out.
So recently I was on a FaceTime call with Dave, and pretty much he was just asking me how my quarantine was going. And the biggest struggle for me was not getting into the Bible, not getting into scripture. My prayer time started to go down from when I was at school. And I think mostly this was because my routine had changed. I didn't know what time I was going to get up. I didn't know what time I was going to go to bed. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do that day. I always did school, I work out, but then after that I pretty much don't have much to do. And I was always seeking entertainment in something, whether that was trying to find the new Netflix show, playing a video game, whatever it was. I pretty much just became lazy and lacked any discipline in getting into the Word and with my prayer time. And so where I was in school, I had a daily routine. I knew exactly when I was going to do this, when I was going to sit down and read a chapter and pray about it or talk to someone about it. Now, I didn't know when I was going to do that, and that kind of got me off track. But what kind of helped me was the youth group, specifically a Zoom call with the core group where Cody challenged us to read Philippians to read Philippians, and then he also challenged us to talk with a younger person from the youth group about Philippians and also challenge them to read it. So my mindset was kind of like, if I'm challenging someone else to read Philippians, then I myself have to be reading Philippians. I can't just be a hypocrite and challenge them to do that when I'm not doing it myself. So that kind of kept me motivated. Along with that, Mr. King continued our school discipleship groups going every Thursday for whoever could attend, and he challenged us to continue staying in the scripture and being diligent in our prayer time. And every week he would ask us what we were reading. And so you don't want to be the guy to show up and say, I had a bad week. I wasn't very good in what I read, and I lacked prayer time. Although you do have weeks like that, you don't want to be the guy to show up to the meeting and say that. So that was a huge motivating factor for me. And not that those need to sound like a chore, that you need to read a chapter a day, have this much time for your prayer time, but on the days that you don't feel like it, those should keep you motivated on the days that you are feeling lazy or whatever it may be. So my challenge is pretty much just whenever you're bored, whenever you're don't know what to do, you're trying to figure out what show to watch, deciding if you want to play that video game or not. Before you turn those things on, maybe read a chapter, pray about the chapter, call a friend up, talk to them about it. And my second challenge is to pick a friend, pick a book that you may want to read over the next month and talk about it 1, 2, 3 times a week. And make sure you keep each other accountable in it, and that should help you.
Hey, that was awesome by Holden. Thank you, Holden, for sharing that. Today, I want to teach you guys just a little phrase that's so important. And I think you can apply this to your life. But it's whatever has your attention has your time. And whatever has your time has your life. Now think that through. Whatever has your attention has your time. Whatever has your time has your life. So through this whole quarantine time, we've been at home. We're trying to develop routines. Think about what has your attention been on? What's got the focus of your attention? And I would guess that whatever that is also is something that you spend a lot of time, and that's what really controls you. So there was a guy in the Bible. You guys know who he was. His name was King David. And David had his attention mainly on God. As a matter of fact, it says that David was a man after God's own heart. What do you guys know about David? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say King David? Aiden, we'll start with you on this one. What comes to your mind? This is so impromptu, by the way. Yeah.
Well, not only that he was like one of the best kings of Israel, but also the whole Bathsheba stuff, obviously. But yeah, just that.
I bet you David is every time we talk about David, sometimes it feels like we always have to bring up that whole Bathsheba thing. I bet you he's just like, every time.
I mean, I feel like he could be like that, but he also could be like, it's a good learning experience. Yeah. So I'm glad that people are talking about it.
It's just crazy that he had 60 years on earth, or about 60, and most of them were spent seeking the Lord and doing his work, and that's the first thing we think about.
Yeah, that's the first thing we think about was his sin with Bathsheba, which was a terrible thing, and it was more than just a sin with Bathsheba. It was sinning with Bathsheba, seeing the murder of her husband, covering it up. It was a terrible thing. But David's attention for his life was really on God. Like, he wanted to focus in on God, and so God called him a man after his own heart. What do you think about when you think of David?
I think about a lot. I would say maybe determined is a word, or I don't know. The first story I think about is actually, it's the part of the repercussions from the Bathsheba story. And his son, the son that Bathsheba has. One of them is Solomon.
Solomon was the first one.
Solomon, and then there's another one. I don't know if it was with Bathsheba. He had a son that got sick, and
That was the first one. Yeah, that was actually the first one.
with Bathsheba.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he got sick, and he was going to die, or he had died, and David fasted, and he fasted for 7 days, didn't eat for 7 days, and the whole time he was fasting, he was praying to God, and it says that his servants actually thought that he was going crazy because he was refusing food and stuff, and he was just praying, God deliver, God deliver, God deliver, and 7 days after this, he starts fasting, his son dies. So even though David has been so faithful to fast for 7 days, his son dies. So you gotta think he's pretty crushed by that.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing it says he does is he goes to the temple and he praises God. He worships. And I just think that's pretty powerful. It's just how determined he is to worship God and to keep his focus on God, no matter the circumstances. Obviously, he just lost a son. He hadn't eaten in 7 days, and the first thing he does is go and worship God. Like I don't know that I would do that.
Well, and that's after coming out of the whole sin situation.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a man with probably a tremendous amount of guilt, understanding what he had done, but also understanding the Lord had forgiven him, and he needed to move on. So listen to this, Psalm 16, verse 8. This is David saying, "I keep my eyes." He keeps his attention, his focus, always on the Lord. I keep my eyes always on the Lord. With him at my right hand, I will not be shaken. So what was David's, who was David's attention? It was God. He always had his attention. His sole desire was to always seek God and to want more of God. And that obviously is what he spent his time doing. And because that is where he spent his time, that's who he was. So, guys, I think through this time, while we're home, while we have this opportunity, and I hear that a lot from students that I talk to, it's hard to develop routines when you don't have a time maybe that you go to bed at night, you don't have a time that you have to get up in the morning. The whole online schooling kind of gives you some parameters where you can do things at certain amounts of time. Maybe what we can do this week, and I'm talking this week, really focus in and give some attention to this week, is develop a few things that we can do that really help us to put our attention on God. Getting up at 4 a.m., that might be pretty difficult. It would be difficult on me. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah.
But I truly respect you on
It's
that.
difficult on me too. God gives me focus for real in those mornings. Without him keeping me mentally strong, I wouldn't be able to do that. So
Yeah. But I think a couple of simple routines. One, so we have youth group, 7 o'clock on Sunday nights through Zoom. Is there a way you could just block out everything and say, I'm coming to that on Sunday nights? Nothing is going to stop me from doing that. I'm focusing my attention. And I realize the world has so many things that want our attention. But if we started setting some things aside and saying, this is where I'm going to totally focus my attention on God. Sunday nights, I'm going to focus on God. Maybe it's a certain time of day. For Cody, it's 4 a.m. But maybe it's a certain time of day where you say, hey, at 2:30 in the afternoon, at 4 o'clock, I'm setting aside some time for God. I'm going to do my YouVersion plan at that time. I'm going to contact a couple people and ask them if I can pray for them. But it really just requires some attention that says, I'm going to do this. I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to make this a routine. And I think as XFactors, we can do this. We can do this if we truly set our attention at doing it. If you've been looking for something in the Bible to study King David. The good, which there's a lot of good about King David. The guy was a brutal beast, man, when it came to men back in those days. And yeah, he had some he had some problems. But we all have had problems. But the one thing David did was he always kept his focus. He always kept his eyes on the Lord. So, hey, anything else you guys want to add, Troy?
Sums it up.
So those questions that we sent, we're going to answer those now together. Hopefully you had some time to think about those earlier today. But, hey, Bugs Bunny, huh?
What's up, dog?
Nice.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to continue the discussion. Love you guys. XFactors.
That's all, folks.
That's all.
Back. Yeah, this that penny with the shack.
If he's passing me the rock, you might not get it back. They never gave a hand, now they wanna give me that. I don't know where you been. I got fear of God, ain't no fear of man. These them air minios, yeesh, need a pair of them.
LA, man, I feel like magic. LA, I can't stand the traffic.